Hey guys, we're starting. Please don't yell anymore, all right?
Everyone to Flyover Footy.
You hear me? Thank you.
Full deals with pandemonium at his house before the live pod, before the pod recording part. That was perfect timing, Phil. You couldn't have
I'm sorry.
you couldn't have timed that any better.
This is why I'm going short tonight. So basically, you went live and you just heard me yelling at kids.
I think the moment I went live and brought it back to us, you were starting the "Hey kids."
Oh gosh!
Could not
Put on the
be.
dad voice.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I feel like I need to go clip that off.
Was it the right combination of polite and stern? That's
Oh,
what I was going
absolutely.
for.
No,
All
it
right.
was you nailed it just by being a dad.
Perfect. That's what these gray hairs come from.
Quality work.
Hope everyone's doing well. Oh, let's see if our chat's working today. Gosh, I hope so.
I know that was it was. I think it's working. Aaron's talking from
Yeah.
the plane like he usually does. I don't know how Aaron's like always flying
I love that.
during our show. What
So cool.
What I feel like I should ask, but I don't want to pry on like what you do that makes you fly during all of our shows. But this is
he'll tell us.
fantastic. I also forgot to do. I didn't forget, but I need to grab the trivia thing that I had. Here we go.
Check. Yep.
All right.
You doing good, Stu? We didn't get to say hello, really.
Yeah, no, I'm now my speakers were turned from the wrong settings. I think I bumped them during the live show during setup. So it's been a while since I brought this out, if you can't tell.
You don't have any clever naming for us tonight. You just went with Stu Holgren.
No, because actually my camera started working somehow, but I don't have anything set up, so I could toggle real quick, but it's really blank down here. Let's see if this works. See?
Hey.
Were those ice skates back there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This is the basement. I'm gonna go dark again because I don't have any of my stuff up here.
Yeah.
Get
that City 2 banner up for their first match this weekend.
Yeah, no, the camera. Okay, yeah, if we turn my camera, do a little behind the scenes, all the TIFO stuff over there.
Oh,
any spoilers?
A bunch of 2 polls, US Open Cup 2 polls, SCLC 2 polls, TIFOs, and various other random stuff. Maybe I'll put that up for next week, but I'll go dark for now.
I do always wonder what everyone's setup is and what it looks like in real life. I always think about that.
Yeah, my basement, first couple of years we were recording down here, it was leaking sometimes because the flashing above my front door wasn't correctly fixed. So
wild.
During rainstorms, it would leak right behind me. So
that's no good.
Oh, Abu, I have enough scarves. I can bring them over, and just if you guys give me 30 seconds, I'll start showing off my boxes of scarves.
Well, I'll buy you some time by doing our trivia to start things off. Our live stream trivia.
Yeah.
All right. So this was a fun one for the LA Galaxy match. So St. Louis has played the Galaxy 4 times total, and we're going to talk about that during the pod. Of those 4 games, there have only been 2 LA Galaxy players to play in all 4 of those games. And there have only been 3 St. Louis City players to play in all 4 of those games. The 2 players that have played in all 4 games for the Galaxy will not be making it 5 for 5. It's Marky Delgado and Dejan Joveljic, 2 players who are no longer with the LA Galaxy. However, there are 2 players who have played all 4 matches for St. Louis City against the LA Galaxy. And 2 of the 3 players who have played 4 so far have a chance to make it 5 for 5. Who are those 2 players? Give chat a moment, Phil. I could see you. I could see the gears moving in your head. So There are 3 players for St. Louis City who have played in all 4 matches against the LA Galaxy. 2 of those players have a chance to make it 5 for 5. Who are those 2 players? As I sip my green tea for tonight. We'll see if that has an impact on my voice tonight. I always feel it gets like hoarse by the end of Thursdays.
Same.
All right, Abo in the chat starts it off with Yarrow and Hebert. And then we have Joe Paglisotti says Hebert and Leuven. Tobias D says Salio and Berkey. Doc 10484 says Berkey and Hebert. Good guesses. Good guesses.
No winner
Phil?
yet?
Phil, I didn't say that. I just said they're good
Okay.
guesses. Phil,
I
do
was
you
going to
have
say Berkey and Hebert.
Berkey and Hebert.
Berkey's obvious, right? Hebert seems to be the go-to with someone who's played a lot of the games. I guess this last
fascinating,
season
isn't
that
it?
wasn't true. Yeah, it is.
Isn't that a fascinating stat? The more we do these things, the more we realize that Kyle Hebert has played like
Yeah.
the most of any City player after Indiana Vasilev. The correct answer is Roman Berkey and Kyle Hebert. Roman Berkey against
Love
the LA
it.
Galaxy. So against the LA Galaxy, where you have 360 total possible minutes, Berkey has played all 4 matches, all 360 minutes. That's an easy one. The Galaxy have split their keepers. So we've faced 2 keepers each, and we're probably going to face a third one this weekend. Jonathan Bond and John McCarthy had split them for the Galaxy. But for St. Louis, Roman Berkey had played 4 matches, all 360 minutes. Kyle Hebert had played all 4 matches in 203 of those 360 minutes. He was 4th on the minutes total against the Galaxy. Edu Leuven has played in 3 matches and 256 of the minutes in those 3 matches. So Leuven has played in 3. Klaus has played in 3 as well. Only 176 minutes played in that. I think he came on as a late sub in a couple of those. Other players who have played in 3 matches are Edu Leuven, Klaus, AZ Jackson, Rasmus Alm, and then a host that have played in 2, and then a bunch that have played in 1. Good stuff.
Good one, Matt. Always good. You're kind of an expert at this.
I'm digging it. I like this. It's just random things that come to me because as I'm looking through, and this one's actually kind of fun. I didn't realize that I've never dug into the FB Ref head-to-head historical stats because in the first 2 years, does it really matter? Like, is it really that interesting when you're playing the team for the 3rd or the 4th question or 3rd or the 4th time? But I think getting into year 3, you're starting to, I don't know, have some kind of historical value to these. It's kind of neat. I was thinking about pulling out a John Nelson question, especially a trick question like Sebastian Sterrett said. That would have been kind of fun. But
I half expected it, actually.
Well, I started thinking earlier this week, I'm kind of over the John Nelson St. Louis City connection. Like, it's been a year removed. I'm kind of done with it. And I'm especially done with it in the sense I saw somebody make a comment about it was like a John Nelson revenge match type thing. I was like, we're a year removed. Is it really a revenge match at this point? Plus, the coach who benched him and relegated him to obscurity is also gone. I don't know. Seems like, and that's another thing. So year 3, different coach, first year players moved on. Like, I feel like we're starting to get to the point a little bit where it's like, you can let some of those early things go.
There's an argument that he feels a bit vindicated after what happened, doesn't it?
If I were John Nelson, I would feel entirely vindicated. Think about it. He didn't just, it's not just that the coach who benched you got fired halfway through the next season after he benched you. You yourself went on to be starting left back for the MLS Cup champions.
True.
Personal performance aside, I mean, John Nelson won that battle.
And other fullbacks who have left. Stu, you have any thoughts on John Nelson? Drama or no drama?
No, I like John Nelson. He was, I thought he had his weaknesses, and I wasn't too disappointed to see him go. But I liked him as a player. I thought he was a good guy to interact with. I was kind of shocked that, he blocked a lot of people on social media when he left. So
he went on a blocking spree.
Yeah, including myself. And I don't think I ever talked to him on social media. I mean,
I don't remember talking bad about him.
No,
The one
but
thing I did is there's a match we were playing on the road. I can't remember the opponent. He liked a tweet that was critical of somebody else, like on the team or the opposition. It would have been a controversial thing, and so like I screen capped it and then I posted it. I was like, "Oh, John Nelson's being spicy or something like that." He DMs me at some point later on, and he was like, "Dude, that was an accidental thing. I unliked it. Don't want to start any drama." It's like, okay, appreciate that. So
I'm still
obviously
his friend.
I deleted the thing, but so you survived the great John Nelson blocking of 2024.
I'm either extremely lovable or extremely forgettable, Matt. I'm leaning toward the latter.
You fly just under the radar enough.
Mhm. Yep.
That's fair. That's fair.
Are you guys ready? Let's
Yeah,
dig
I'm
into
ready.
this. The kids downstairs have been shockingly quiet. We better take advantage of it.
Yeah, take advantage of it while you can.
Here we go. Welcome everyone to Flyover Footy on the Big 550 KTRS. We are again airing on Friday night, thanks to the hot Mizzou basketball team that has been going on, doing well. So thank you for joining us tonight as we give you some information on the upcoming game for St. Louis City against LA Galaxy on Sunday this week. Mark your calendars, everyone. So you got a couple days to be ready to get the party ready for the away game, the second away game of the season. I have my friends with me to help me do that. First of all, of course, Matt Baker. How's it going, man?
Great, Phil. Excited to be here. Looking forward to some Sunday night soccer this week. It's a bit different. I'm excited to watch the rest of MLS on Saturday. Don't usually get that opportunity. Yeah. And so it should be a fun weekend. And as we're going to talk, this is the weekend where you look to turn things around. So a lot of excitement for me on what we can expect for City.
Yes, you've been very positive. So I'm looking forward to hearing a lot of that today as we go through. Stuart Holtgren is here to join us as well. Stu, how's it going in the basement over there in South City?
It's going pretty good. I discovered that my camera started working again, so I'll have to declutter a little bit for next week. Maybe I'll actually show my face out of my little dungeon. But no, one thing that's an extra bonus for the Sunday game is it's an away game on the Pacific time zone that's not at 9:00 at night.
Yes,
absolutely.
We don't get a lot of those.
Anytime we could steal the late slot and find a way to make it early, I'm in for that.
Me too. Unless if I can get a nap, I'm okay. Otherwise, not happening. So, all right. Well, let's dig right into it. Let's start talking about the players that we like to lead off lately with injury statuses. Leading off with Rasmus Alm, as maybe is tradition at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Rasmus Alm, we saw him in the weight room on Tuesday at training. So he's there. There was a Rasmus Alm sighting confirmed. But if you look at the timeline that Olaf Melberg had previously given us, we've got about 2 or 3 more weeks of Rasmus Alm being out with his hip injury before he'll be reevaluated. So he's still not close. As much as he was walking around in the weight room, doing whatever training he needed to be doing, Rasmus Alm's still a bit away. Now, Joachim Nilsson is an interesting story. He's not training this week. Olaf Melberg confirmed to us on Tuesday. He will be reevaluated again on Friday. So if you're listening to this the day that the pod comes out, then think good thoughts about Joachim Nilsson, because Joachim Nilsson having more scans done, taking a look at those to see how his bone bruise is recovering. It is on his knee. That was, I don't know if that let slip by Olaf or if he intended to tell us, but it was his knee that bone bruise happened on, suffered in that San Jose friendly at the end of preseason. Joachim Nilsson, safe to say, is out against the LA Galaxy as well. Other notes from around training, Emil Jääskeläinen trained with City early this week, but it was just a numbers thing, trying to get an even amount of numbers to do some full team training. The homegrowns still aren't training with City. So Phil and I were commenting before we went live that Caden Glover, Mekhi Joyner, none of those guys have been training with City, even when they need a player to step in to fill out numbers. Last week it was Emiliano Chavez. This week again, Emil Jääskeläinen. So just an interesting note. Nothing really first team related on that, I don't think, to read into. Jake Girdwood-Reich, though, some good news. Finally, some good news here. Let's trend away from the bad and go to the good. Jake Girdwood-Reich was running on his own earlier this week, walking around training, looking longingly at the team as they were training. Santi knows what I'm talking about on this. We saw Jake walking around on the fields. You could tell he's just clamoring to get back. He's He's got that, that kid looking at what he wants at the store right there. He's on his way back. If we follow the trends from previous years, running on your own translates to a week or two later, getting in with the team, and then you get those full practices in, and then you get an availability for matches. So next path is light work with the team, full integration, game time. I don't know if we're going to talk this week, but there's a question about how JGR fits into this squad right now. Where does he find minutes? So that's in the back of my mind as we hope for him to return to training. Another good news, Jay Reed was actually spotted in the weight room doing some cardio on the machines this week as he recovers from his foot surgery that he underwent in early January. The club released on January 3rd, I think, that he underwent that surgery on his foot. They said at the time that he had about a 3-month rehab before returning. And so I think we're in line with his progression, which is a good thing, seeing Jay Reed work in the weight room, doing some cardio on the bike and on the treadmills. Other good news is no slowdowns for Chris Durkin or Cedric Toyshirt in their returns to match fitness. Full participants as they look ramp up their fitness, going 45 minutes last week each. And then we look to see more from them this coming week. No slowdowns for them. That's great news. Ultimately, there's nothing new to report, which is a fantastic thing to see after a couple match days. And the guys who were hurt are trending better.
Speaking of good news, I slipped into that negativity, but that's been really seeping in about Rasmus Alm and Joachim Nilsson. We're rooting for these guys. They're so talented. We will be a better team if they are healthy with us. And so I hate that I did that. So I just want to put that out there. Stuart, we did talk a lot before the show started about the homegrowns not playing nearly as much as some of the City 2 players when they need someone to fill in. Is there any reading into that? Or I don't know if you want to talk about something else. It's cool that Jay Reed's coming back. There's a lot that you could touch on here. Please make your choice of things to talk about here.
Well, yeah, no, I just want to second that. Of course, we're cheering for Nielsen and Alm, and we want all the guys healthy and to succeed. And they're very talented players. It's just tough when you see them not able to play, and I'm sure they're the ones who are taking it tougher than anyone else out there. As far as with the homegrown guys, it's still going to be interesting to see where they fall. I mean, curious who's going out on loan among them, who's staying at City 2. And I know we have a lot to talk about City 2 later on. I'm not trying to read anything into it at this time, to be honest. Just a little bit of wait and see.
Yep. Matt, you are right, though. It's going to be hard for JGR to find a place. I think this is something we mentioned when we were talking about whether we wanted oh my goodness, what's his name? Morales to sign.
Alfredo Morales. Yeah.
So,
and honestly,
but that's a good thing too, as well.
It is. It's good to have quality and to have, the best players win out as opposed to, fighting for scraps or having to pull guys up from City 2. But when you have a guy like Tomas Ostrak who gets time with City 2 so he could have match minutes as opposed to making the game day roster for a team traveling to San Diego, that pulls into question right now just how much are we going to be using these central midfielders in these games upcoming? And that's a further reason why you have to kind of cautiously optimistic about JGR. You want to see him, you want to see what he can do, but I don't know. If you were going to be speculating on a player to go out on loan, you might want to start with JGR, and that's not news. That's not anything to report. That's just playing by the numbers, looking at availability of all these, trying to find minutes for players. JGR is 20 years old. He's on a long-term contract, and if he's not going to get minutes with City, with Edu Leuven, Chris Durkin, Akil Watts, and Alfredo Morales being the first 4 central midfielders, and your center backs now looking pretty stacked as well, with Joachim Nilsson going to return soon, Jonas Horn, Henry Kessler, Timo Baumgartel, Kyle Hebert, Josh Yarrow. There's a lot of bodies there. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. I'm tempted to comment on that and have a conversation, but we don't have time. So maybe that's something we'll touch on more as the weeks go by. And we get more information anyway. It'll be better. But let's talk about LA Galaxy. We're going to do a bird's eye view on them and City, just to kind of whet our tongue. I don't know. What am I trying to say here? Get us started with some of the stats as we get deeper and deeper.
The appetizer for the deep dive we're going to do here in a minute is the head-to-head meeting. We talked earlier before we started the pod that now we're 2 years into MLS. We're starting to have some more meaningful data on head-to-head battles, and so it's a little more interesting to look at that. St. Louis has played LA 4 times in the past, and St. Louis is undefeated. I'm not trying to jinx anything. I'm just stating a fact. St. Louis has won 1 and drawn 3 against the LA Galaxy, and it's kind of been funny how it's worked out. In order, they've gone 1-1, 2 the goals, the match score, 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, and had a 2-1 win under John Hackworth last September. So we'll see if City can keep that momentum because they've been able to have a modicum of success against this Greg Vanney LA Galaxy team. And Greg Vanney has been their head coach in all 4 of those previous meetings, as well as still their head coach. The interesting thing about those 4 previous meetings is that while it was under Bradley Carnell and then John Hackworth, we know the LA Galaxy historically, especially under Greg Vanney, have been a possession-based team. And they've had that success against St. Louis. St. Louis has never gotten over 50% possession in any of those 4 matches previously against the LA Galaxy. 46%, 31%, 34%, and 42%. So it's been fairly low in that as well. By design, I think, with those historical St. Louis teams, but that's an extra layer to watch for when we play them on Sunday night is how will this new look St. Louis team, the City 2.0, come out and how will they show against the LA Galaxy? Are they going to try and let the LA Galaxy possess the ball, or will they use the success that they had against Colorado, try to go back to that and possess the ball against a team that really doesn't like to press? We'll get into that a little bit more, but fascinating looking at those 4 previous matches. And though it's early, we can already look at a little bit of the standings to see how these teams are shaking out so far. St. Louis tied 11th in MLS right now with just 2 draws, no goals against, no goal differential. Obviously, the Colorado and San Diego games we know about. The interesting thing on these that we talked about during Fallout, we talked last week, is St. Louis has had arguably their best back-to-back defensive performances in their history. That first game against Colorado, it was their absolute best defensive performance as far as XG goes. But these back-to-back games have been pretty remarkable in how much success they've had defensively. But on the flip side, it has also had 2 frustratingly different offensive outputs, including by XG numbers, their worst offensive performance ever in their 2+ years of existence against San Jose in terms of XG and overall shots. 2 shots, XG of 0.1, 0.2, depending on where you look. It was abysmal against San Diego. So they're looking to erase that, kind of go back to where they were against Colorado, if anything. And like we said, they're getting more healthy players. Baumgartel, Durkin, Toyshirt all expected to play. Nilsson, Alm, JGR, and Reed expected to be out. So St. Louis is, you could say, trending better as far as health goes, which is not anything the LA Galaxy can say. The LA Galaxy tied last with Sporting KC and the Houston Dynamo with 2 losses to their record in MLS play. 1 goal scored, 4 goals against, -3 goal differential. They have 3 straight losses to start the year. So 2 losses in MLS play against San Diego, 2-0, against Vancouver, 2-1 last weekend. And then midweek against Herediano in Costa Rica, they lost 1-0 in CONCACAF Champions Cup. 3 straight losses, and they are in the midst of 5 matches in 20 days. This is their 3rd match of 5, as they have a CONCACAF Champions Cup match after this, and then another match in MLS play next weekend. The thing to know about the Galaxy before we go into their style of play, and what we can expect from them on the field, is they are injured badly. This is something that is just the narrative for the LA Galaxy right now as they try to defend their MLS Cup championship from last year. They are missing what I understand to be 4 no-brainer starters, as their media would refer to them. Ricky Puig is out. He had ACL surgery in December. He's their arguably best player, center attacking mid, playmaker. Ricky Puig is out. Joseph Paintsil is out. He had a quad injury early February. He's expected to return either later this month or in April. Lucas Sanabria, central midfielder, is also going to be out after fracturing his collarbone in the Vancouver game. Not all the way broken, but fractured enough to fly back to LA following Vancouver when the rest of the team went to Costa Rica. So Sanabria is out. Mickey Yamane is also going to be out with a hamstring injury, grade 1 per reports. That takes 10 to 14 days to recover, and the injury was reported earlier this week. Those 4 players are massive losses for the Galaxy. And then depth-wise, they're suffering from a player that they wanted to be a key playmaker in Mateus Nascimento, a striker who is a Brazilian U22 on loan to the Galaxy, who hasn't even debuted yet, out with a groin injury. And then Mauricio Cuevas, another fullback, is confirmed out with a hamstring injury. This is one of their depth players. He's going to be out for some time, but 4 no-brainer starters, some depth out. And to highlight their depth issues, they brought in a 17-year-old academy product, Harbor Miller, debuting against Vancouver last week. So that's the state of affairs for the Galaxy, is they're bringing in a 17-year-old academy product to help round out their roster in these MLS second halves. Big issues that really drive the narrative for the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the possession stat, because it's something I've been thinking a lot about. Like, someone was saying, what games should I get really fancy tickets for? I was like, well, we always do good against Galaxy, who possesses the ball. But since I said that, I've thought, boy, we don't press as much as we used to. And LA Galaxy is so hurt that they don't seem to care that much about possession, or if they do, they're failing a little bit. So it's a totally different thing here. Am I jumping the gun by bringing that up, Matt?
No, not at all. And I think the thing to remember on that is what you've seen from the Galaxy so far. And it's not just the team. The Galaxy don't press. They're ones who will more likely just let you control the ball in your defensive third as they set up in their mid to low block. But it's something that I think this new look St. Louis team isn't going to be as aggressive. They will press, but if it doesn't work out, they're just as adept to drop back into that mid block. So attack in the middle third of the field. And that's something that the Galaxy have not had success in, is building into their offensive third. They don't have the playmakers. Marco Royce has not been a playmaker. He's been more a guy who wants to, he needs to receive some distribution in the final third to go with Gabriel Peck and Christian Ramirez, their striker right now. But they don't have anybody to help deliver the ball in Edu Leuven type ways, or in Marcel Hartl type ways into the attacking third. So that plays absolutely into the effectiveness and efficiency of how they look to build and what they do defensively, even, because you could argue that even though it's a home game, we might expect the Galaxy to be a little more cautious in allowing goals.
Stuart, thoughts on these injuries, our history with LA Galaxy, anything you'd like to bring up before we move on and get a little bit more, oh my Lord, today I am a mess. Specific, before we get a little more specific in the next area.
Yeah, no, we they have a lot of injuries. It's one of those the double-edged sword of how great MLS is how quickly fortunes can change for your teams, and it's also, a positive and negative. Right now, LA Galaxy are kind of on the downside of that. They had quite a few departures after last season. I was thinking about it. Yoshida left. Who else left?
Delgado left.
Delgado.
Also, Dejan Joveljic left.
Sean Davis was there and left.
This is the team that had cap casualties from last year. That's why a lot of these players left.
Jalen Neal was another one. So yeah, they suffered some key losses, and the game that we drew 3-3 to them last March, I think that was Yoshida had a last minute goal to tie it, but that was an exciting one. So I feel like all the games so far we've played LA Galaxy at least have been exciting, and hopefully this doesn't take the flavor of either team's first couple of matches, and includes a little bit more action.
You're listening to Flyover Footy on the Big 550 KTRS. Thank you for joining us as we talk about getting more specific, is the word I was looking for, more specific with the style of play and what we can expect to see LA Galaxy do, as well as maybe what we see from St. Louis, or what they should do. Matt, you've been calling this the tale of the tape. So let's dig into the LA Galaxy strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, they don't really. The LA Galaxy really haven't had any strengths lately. If anything, you could say that it's all they haven't had anything to build off of. And so their weaknesses so far this year have been finishing scoring chances, defending through balls. So they're weak in certain areas, in certain phases of play. Defensively, they've been basically acquiescing everything. They haven't controlled a single game in MLS play. You could argue that against Herediano in Costa Rica, they were a little more effective, and we're going to touch on that in a minute. But in MLS play, they've just been so lacking in aerial duels, individual mistakes. So the quality of their players are just not as high level as they were at the end of last season. And so they're making these individual issues because they're relying on kind of lesser quality players. A story that St. Louis knows all too well from 2024. They have been weak against defending counterattacks and defending set pieces. That's how some of these goals have been scored against them. These are key places that, at least historically, St. Louis has been very strong in. St. Louis has always been a strong counterattacking team and strong with set pieces. So set pieces could be an interesting thing to keep in mind and keep an eye on in this game as something the Galaxy are weak in. The Galaxy do like to attack down their right side. So if you're thinking about how defensively St. Louis sets up with probably Giannis Horn and Conrad Wallem on that left side, the Galaxy attack down their right. They go through Gabriel Peck quite a bit. He's their arguably best attacker and finisher that they have on the roster right now who's healthy. They'll take long shots, but primarily they'll take these long shots because they can't get anything working into the final third. It's almost like what we saw from St. Louis last year in volume they go for, and there's just no good quality. There's no high percentage chances on these. But the Galaxy do like to play the short passes. They like to play with width. And so they'll possess the ball as much as they can in typical LA Galaxy fashion. This is still a Greg Vanney team. So he's still going to be trying to do the same things that we've seen from his team, even though the quality might not be there. And they're not aggressive. That's, I think, some of the numbers we're going to have in just a little bit as far as PPDA and average height of defensive actions. This is not an aggressive Galaxy team. If you watch their 2 matches in MLS play, you saw whatever the opposite of aggressive is, passive, because they made no attempts to engage the ball in the other team's defensive half of the field. That's the level of aggression that we're looking at from the LA Galaxy. St. Louis, it's honestly tough to really draw a lot of conclusions with St. Louis. And that's why I've really been struggling with how to describe what this St. Louis City team is offensively right now, because these 2 games have been so markedly different. The 2 examples that we have under Olaf Melberg have been arguably successful in building quality chances, or building a volume of chances at least. And then the exact opposite of that. Like I mentioned, statistically the worst offensive performance we've ever had against San Diego as far as generating XG and shots. St. Louis has so far liked the long balls, but in a different way from a couple of years ago. It's not just Berkey sending it long and hoping to win 50-50s or win duels and then immediately move the ball up the field. It's using the center backs to try and send the ball long down the field. It's using Edu Leuven, who is second to Berkey in number of long balls attempted from that central midfield low-lying position. It's attacking down the right with Thomas Totland. That's been a hallmark of St. Louis for quite a while, is attacking down that right side. But also, we have tried to play the ball up the middle with Marcel Hartl. Against San Diego, it was incredibly ineffective. But you could look to the Colorado game as more of an idea of what Olaf Melberg is trying to do here. We do like to attempt crosses, which shouldn't surprise anyone given our wingback play, getting the ball to our wingbacks in that final third area and attempting crosses in from either Conrad Wallem or Giannis Horn in that left side, and then Thomas Totland on that right side. And then, surprisingly or not surprisingly, depending on how much you've been paying attention, we do like to play the ball in our own half. We have been very much willing and wanting for our center backs to play the ball up, to play the ball into our central midfield, play it back, and then try to build space as we work in that middle third of the field with a higher line, but leveraging our center backs to play make a little bit more. Now, we've had success in shooting from direct free kicks. The Edu Leuven shot off the post in the first game comes to mind. We have had success with attacking set pieces and generating chances. Aerial duels have been a success for St. Louis, a strength in how we're able to win those with and without Klaus. Again, mostly in the Colorado game. But some of the weaknesses that we've had, especially highlighted by San Diego, are keeping possession of the ball and finishing scoring chances, obviously. Now, one of the things that I think you have to consider when you're thinking about the St. Louis style and how that has been in the first 2 games is San Diego pressed us to an extent that not only we may never see again, but it compared to the average PPDA numbers, passes per defensive action, which indicates if you're a pressing team or not, they were about 50% more pressing than the average best team last year, which was St. Louis. The press was just incredible. And we talked about it on Fallout, but it was not just effective, but it was voluminous in ways that we just won't likely see again, especially from this LA Galaxy team. I can't emphasize enough how, if you don't like what we did against San Diego because of how much pressure they put on us, you're probably going to enjoy this game a whole lot more, just because the LA Galaxy are basically going to do the opposite of what San Diego did in their press.
Yeah. And I mean, can we adjust? I imagine it will be much better to watch. I think I agree with you. Stuart, any thoughts on some of the things Matt said, or any thoughts of, a little bit more specific on what you think LA Galaxy may present?
One thing sorry, I was muted there for a second. One thing that I'm interested to see that's off the field is fan reaction. LA fans are already turning against Greg Vanney a little bit this season, which is crazy considering how last season ended. But
no kidding.
It'll be interesting to see if the club's feeling the heat a little bit from that, and they adjust their tactics to maybe kind of throw all their powder in to make an impact initially. I don't think Vanney is necessarily going to take that route and bend to kind of crowd feedback, but I mean, it's been a few years since LA Galaxy have been in a rough position. When was their wooden spoon season?
Oh, I don't remember.
That was a few years ago, at least
2017.
Yeah,
something like that. Or it's been a while.
Few years
I mean,
before COVID.
they've had up and downs.
So they should know better.
No one likes losing.
It's almost like they're, as bad as it's been for us with our draws, imagine that, but losing those games. And that's basically like a good analogy for what LA fans are dealing with.
Anything else, Stu?
Well, I did discover, I was going to save this for later, but I did discover a St. Louis connection. 2017 LA Galaxy wooden spoon champions. And I think they passed it off to FC Cincinnati. No, Cincinnati was 19, 20, and 21, something like that. But Christian Ramirez, we talked about him earlier as a starting forward for LA Galaxy. He came to St. Louis in 2015 for the U.S. Open Cup. So I have to fit U.S. Open Cup into the podcast somehow.
There you go.
When he was with Minnesota United and St. Louis FC matched up against them and hosted Minnesota United in the third round of the U.S. Open Cup that year. And Christian Ramirez, I think, had his penalty. It went to penalties. I think he had his penalty saved. Either him or Miguel Ibarra had their penalty saved, and that was the
Batman
last
and
one.
Superman.
Yeah. So, and Ramirez is an interesting one. He's 33 years old, but he's been around forever. He seems like he should be, I don't know, nearly 40 at this point. But his career has been such an incredible, like, MLS journeyman. He's had his time even with the U.S. national team during Jurgen's days. He got a call up around 2015, I think, when he was the Golden Boot winner of NASL back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, he was good. And yeah, I was going to make sure that it was mentioned that Minnesota United was NASL at that point in the games. That was pre-MLS Minnesota United. So fun one, Stu. Glad you brought that up. One last thing I want to say is there were a couple things that stood out to me from the last game. One is, like, we were talking about what it would be good for St. Louis City. We don't have a playing style. One playing style is just, like, I think you mentioned it, but, like, the defense is solid, right? We're going to be hard to score on, so that's fine. But the things that Olaf was saying that he wanted to see better was to be braver moving forward. Sometimes we had numbers, if you include Berkey, building up, and guys were still passing backwards instead of forward. So that's something I want to watch for and really hope that gets better, that especially our center backs get more brave. Perhaps Durkin being in there will help the build up. Sometimes I feel like Watts gets a little lost in the build up, and I'm curious to see if Durkin being in there, if he's in there, will improve that. That's something I'm watching for. But also, if we can get those crosses in, just, finish it. We're going to talk about the lineups here in a little bit, but we're not quite there yet. We are Flyover Footy. You're listening on the big 550 KTRS. We have a few questions that we're going to go into. We didn't have time for this last time, but this will be fun to kind of have a conversation just before we do our lineups. So Matt, you want to pose the first question? We'll ask it to Stu.
Yeah, I'm gonna inform the first question with a stat where I bring in the PPDA and average height of defensive actions, because St. Louis led all of MLS last year in about a 10.7 or so PPDA. The lower the number, the better pressing team you are, the more pressing you do. The last 2 matches for the LA Galaxy, they've had a 19.3 and 23.3 passes per defensive action. That means teams are playing the ball like crazy before they actually attempt a defensive action. That sets records if they were to keep on that track. So the opposite of aggression. So the question is, will the Galaxy bunker and play for a close match given their lack of firepower and what we've seen so far in these first 2 games? Nothing's really changed as far as who they have available in the attack. If anything, it's gotten worse with another injury that they've sustained to Sanabria. So do we think they're going to bunker at home?
What do you think, Stu?
No, I don't think they're going to bunker. I don't think they can bunker, as much as this match is a must not lose for City. I think to some extent, I think it's a must win for LA Galaxy to get back on track. I mean, they lost to Herediano. It's not a very large town. It's something like 18,000 people or something. So, I mean, you never want to take your opponent for granted in CONCACAF Champions Cup, but at the same time, LA Galaxy are the MLS Cup champions, and losing to this club from a small town in Costa Rica, it's going to bloody their nose a little bit. And if I was a Galaxy fan, I would want to see some sort of fight and action out of the gate for them. But we'll see. I mean, Vanny's he's a pro. He's been around for a long time. He's experienced. These are really professional players. Also, maybe they don't have that energy to start off hot right away. We'll see. But if I was a Galaxy fan, I would want to see some jump in their step.
Honestly, that's the one of the things that I've heard from Galaxy fans and from their media is that they've been even worse in the second half because they just don't have the bodies and the quality to make second half adjustments, personnel to counter different moves. And so you're probably right. If they're going to do something, the first half is when I would be worried about them doing something before the tactical adjustments come into play, the fresh legs that they just get even worse with.
Yeah. I mean, they played Vancouver and recently, now they were away, right? But, Vancouver's not terribly unlike St. Louis. And so the, possession was pretty even. But yeah, I don't think they have the bodies, man. I think that's a really good point. I was going to say the same thing. So I think they got to be early in the season. I think they just got to be conservative. The only problem is if this was a pressing St. Louis team under Bradley Carnell, bunkering is the answer, but now we're a very conservative side. So it might be, they may not have much choice, but to possess the ball in this one, whether they want it or not. I kind of think that's going to end up being what it looks like. But Matt, I don't know if you've given a total answer on that. What do you think?
I don't think they bunker, but I don't think they can change much of what they do, which is a non-aggressive mid to low block team. And for a St. Louis team that all we have to do to really kick things into gear for us is control the ball and be smart with our passing and our possession. If this St. Louis team actually can hold the ball and control possession, dominate the time of possession, we're going to put a lot of pressure on that LA Galaxy team who they're not good at counterattacking. They're not good at pressing. And if we can figure out how to work between their lines and get the ball into dominant positions while possessing the ball, get it to Conrad Wallem, let him go 1v1 on that left side because he's good at it. That's a recipe for success for St. Louis. And I think, the second question I was going to ask, not to get ahead, is will City be more aggressive and take more chances? And I think they have to be. This isn't a team that believes, I fully believe, LA Galaxy is ripe for the picking. And St. Louis knows that they've had success against a team that doesn't press. So go back to just playing smart, playing a little bit, not conservative, but you don't have to deal with a high press like you did before. You're going to have space to build up and get into the middle third of the field to then try to stretch things out, open things up, get things out to your wing backs who can then send crosses in. And I think there's going to be some people in the box this game to receive those crosses.
Yeah, that's the other thing is we gave the ball away so easily. That was another thing Olaf said. And so, are we more aggressive while still being careful not to lose the ball? That's going to be a hard line to toe. Stuart, what do you think about that? Will City be more aggressive and take more chances?
I would think so. I mean, I think we'll take the possession. We're going to get into lineups later, but Matt talked about wearing down LA Galaxy and they don't have gas for the second half. I think it's going to be really interesting, the substitutions that Olaf makes in the second half and how it'll impact the match. Particularly, I think it'll be interesting to see how he uses Pompeo and Betcher and timing on, starting on the bench when they come on and that sort of thing. But I think we'll get onto those in a moment. I don't want to steal too much of your thunder.
That leads to my favorite question that I really want to touch on here. Can Edu Leuven be unlocked and involved more? And I think our lineups are going to come into that, and the substitutions perhaps can come into that, because where did we see Durkin come in when he subbed in? It was a bit of a 8, almost 10 roll.
Yeah.
And then Leuven was far back in the field. Matt, what do you think? This is big for me. It's been bothering me.
I think Edu Leuven needs to be unlocked in the sense of more involved in the buildup. Now, Edu Leuven unlocked in where he's currently playing looks different than in previous years, where he was given that more box-to-box freedom. The fact that he is tied for second on our team for second most attempted long passes says something. He's one of those who plays it more closely to the center backs in this system. Olaf is having him play deeper. And yeah, you do have those midfielders switch on and switch off, where it's been Akil and Leuven, and at any given time they can move up or down as they need to on the field, but it's mostly been Leuven who has stayed deeper to help play the ball from the center backs. And so in that position, it's his game to direct the ball upfield. The center backs, especially the wide center backs who have been making these longer passes and getting higher up the field, leaving Kessler behind them, they're mostly playing with Leuven. And so Leuven is responsible for creating the space for them. He's responsible for opening the space so that he plays the ball back to them whenever he needs to. And he can also play it up to our wingers. He's been successful. He's got greater than 50% on these long passes. And that's, greater than 50% on a long pass when you have high volume is pretty impressive. It's not something to write off. And so I think of Leuven being unlocked more as him facilitating better for our offense, helping to progress the ball better, not scoring goals, not even necessarily directly leading to assists, but more the hockey assist, the second pass that leads to a shot. That's Edu Leuven. And for him to be more involved and better involved in helping us to create those better chances higher up the field, I think he can, and I think he likely will do that.
And I just would like, I'm thinking back to what Leuven and Hartl looked like under Hackworth. And I think some of our best soccer was being played. Now that's a totally different system. Hack came in and started wanting to play some footy, right? So maybe this is a moot point because under Olaf, maybe that's not at all what he wants. Maybe those long balls are what he needs. And by far, Leuven's going to be the best at that. So if that's his focus, it makes sense. But what I was really enjoying was Hartl and Leuven last year. And I was like, okay, well, we're starting to see Indy Vasilev do those things, interchange with Volum, interchange with Hartl in and around the box. And then Indy leaves. And so I don't know. Is Durkin that guy? I don't think so. But Durkin can be that guy that makes sure he helps with build-up. I think he does really well with that. Morales has shown that he's very good with long balls. I would say second on the team in the midfield, at least, to Leuven. Can Durkin do the long balls? I'm not sure. Can Durkin do the interchange in and around the box? I'm also not sure. He moves a lot. He's a good presser. He's also a good defender. Is he good with the interchange? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is here. Maybe Celio, but that's something that's been bothering me because I think Leuven is better in and around the box. I don't want to be the 10 either. I understand why he's back in the field, but I feel like we're not maximizing his offensive power. And it's been bothering me lately, but maybe I'll change my mind. Watts also good with those cutting runs. If cutting runs is what we need, Durkin can do that. Watts can do that. So, a lot of options here to look for. I'm sorry, I've taken too long on this, but it really has been bothering me. I wanted to talk about it. Stu, do you have any thoughts about Leuven?
No, I thought it was interesting. I thought originally Leuven was going to kind of be the man on Luca de la Torre against San Diego. I thought Watts actually did a really good job in that role for the most part. He's a hard player to defend against. With Leuven, yeah, I mean, you unlock him. He needs to be unlocked to perform at this level. MLS teams succeed when their DPs succeed. And whatever role Leuven feels comfortable in, he's got to be firing at 100% for us to perform our best.
Agree. Matt, let's give you one last thought, and then we'll go right into the lineups and predictions.
Yeah, my last thought is finalizing that question. It's the Galaxy aren't going to press like San Diego. So how's City overall going to look against this type of team that wants to possess the ball a little more? Colorado had played both ways. Chris Armas doesn't want to possess the ball all the time, but he's very adaptable. Greg Vanney with the LA Galaxy will want to possess the ball. They will drop off. And so the question for me is, will City be able to create the space that they need to in this more tightly compact LA Galaxy team? It's going to be a different kind of problem than they had against San Diego, because San Diego, they couldn't handle their press. With the Galaxy, they're going to need to try and draw the Galaxy back. And I think that's where Edu Leuven, that's where Chris Durkin or Akil Watts, that's where they really come into play, is you have to stretch the Galaxy a little higher up the field than they want to, so that you can beat them behind and get that volume numbers in the attacking third. Watch for our wingers, especially in trying to purposefully get 1v1s against their fullbacks. The Galaxy run a 4-man back line, so they're going to have Johnny Nelson at that left back spot. They're going to have numbers opportunities to build in the wide areas of the attacking third. So Conrad Wallum, Thomas Totland, those are kind of the players that can help stretch this Galaxy defense wide, and then it opens up space for Marcel Hartl in the middle. We haven't even mentioned Marcel Hartl once, I think, but I feel Marcel Hartl is going to be primed for a big game if the wingers can do their job in opening up the back line and the defensive midfielders for the Galaxy.
Could use someone to unlock him. That's what I keep coming back to. It's been bugging me, guys. So I've said my fill, though. Let's move on. Matt, why don't you give us a baseline of a predicted starting 11, and then we'll give ours.
Yeah, mine should be no surprise. I've got Roman Berkey, Giannis Horn, Henry Kessler, and Kyle Hebert as my center backs. I have Conrad Wallum as my left wing back, Thomas Totland as my right wing back, Edu Leuven and Chris Durkin as my central midfielders, Marcel Hartl at the 10, Klaus and Teuchert as my strikers. I want to see Klaus back in there because I know it was a pressing San Diego team, but I just didn't like the runs. I didn't like the spacing that Betcher and Teuchert had when they were complementing each other. I'm not saying that I never want to see that duo again, but I do like Stu's earlier point of second half subs, looking at Salio and Simon Betcher as game changers with their speed and where they can position themselves to really maximize the lack of depth that the Galaxy have. And I also want to see Klaus help connect. One of the things that I had a big problem with in San Diego was there was just nobody to help connect the lines. And it felt like Betcher and Teuchert were trying to do similar things, waiting for distribution from the midfield, from the back line, and it wasn't coming in the quality they needed it to. Klaus comes back to the ball. This is where you can actually look to him to help create more in that attacking midfield area and then play off of a Marcel Hartl and a Cedric Teuchert. So there's a lot of opportunity that I think Klaus will help with. I want to see him back in that starting 11, and I want to see him with Cedric Teuchert up top.
Stu, what do you think?
My lineup is pretty similar to Matt's, but I'll get into it. I had one change that I'm interested in seeing, but I, to be honest, don't expect to see. I have Berkey, Horn, and then I have Baumgartel, Kessler, Wallum, Leuven, Durkin, Totland, Hartl, Klaus, and Teuchert. I would like to see Baumgartel become involved more. I think he's has a threat with his long ball passing that could help us. But I'm a little worried about Kessler's pace at that outside center back position. And I think Hebert was better on that right center back position with Kessler staying behind. So if that's the approach, that makes sense to me going forward.
I'm pretty much the same as Matt until the strikers, but I do just want to say that I really enjoyed Vollum being in this game. While Horn was able to get forward, it was just a totally different game. I would say Vollum had one of the best chances created in that game out of what 2 or 3 chances created, it felt like. So I want to see more of that. He did a lot of that same exact thing in the preseason. So I'm confident that I think he's going to step up and help us in the attack. I agree. Leuven and Durkin together. Let's see what that looks like, and if I get my wishes in any way. But let's say I put Betcher and Teuscher in because I think they complement each other better. I missed what you said though, Matt. I'm going to have to watch for those two maybe getting in each other's way, and I think you convinced me with Klaus. But my problem is that Teuscher, I think, is the one that's kind of the hot high-end player right now that if the ball falls to him, he's going to put it away. And finishing is kind of where we're struggling right now. So I think Teuscher needs to be in, but I also don't know if I want to see Teuscher and Klaus together. I think that's even worse than Teuscher and Betcher. So that's why I went around thinking what I said, but you're right about Klaus being in there and connecting the lines, even with Hartle. Like it seems important. So I'm interested to see what ends up happening. Let's do our predictions and get out of here. Matt, let's start with you.
One last thing is I think Klaus will also help with the press. I like his instincts as far as initiating the press, and I think that's going to be an underrated thing that we have to watch for is how effective is the St. Louis City press. It wasn't against San Diego. I think it can be against this type of LA Galaxy team. How do you pick a score for a team that hasn't scored a goal yet? Like, do you go optimistic and say 2-1 St. Louis, or do you just go and say I'm just going to say 1-0 St. Louis because I just want a goal? I'd be happy, obviously, if we had a third clean sheet, but I'm not going to go overly optimistic on this one. I'm just going to say 1-0 St. Louis.
Stu?
I'm going to go 2-1 St. Louis. I think we go to a 2-0 advantage at halftime and then somehow make it more interesting.
All right, I'm going to say 1-0. I'm with you, Matt. I think it'll be a St. Louis City win, and I think they'll keep the clean sheet going, even against a depleted Galaxy. That's it from us, though. Thank you so much for listening. It is a Sunday night game. You're listening on a Friday if you're listening on the big 550 KTRS. Thank you for joining us. We do have a podcast. We have a YouTube. You can find us anywhere you find podcasts in feeds in your phone. So look us up. Please give us a rating if you will. It helps us, especially if you enjoyed this and you feel a little more prepared for that game. And the chat, you can join us in the chat. We do stream live on Thursday nights. They're the ones that let me know that also we got to change our clocks for Sunday. So don't mess up the game time there. Don't sleep in and miss church or whatever else you do on your Sunday mornings. So yeah, set your clocks appropriately. We'll all enjoy this game in LA that isn't late at night, as Stu said. Again, we're Flyover Footy on the big 550 KTRS. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the game. Bye. Route.
All right. And so, Phil, you and I talked about probably not going to do a wind down on this show. We can talk City 2 real quick. I don't have a whole lot of stuff that I really feel is warranted to talk on a long wind down, but we could do a YouTube special right now and just talk with City 2 if you're up for it, Stu.
Yeah, no, I'm spring chicken. I don't have I'm off tomorrow.
Ooh.
So exciting stuff. Yeah.
All right.
I'll leave you guys to it, though. Thank you so much. Sorry to be leaving you. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, so we don't usually do like YouTube specials. This will be a stream only. Stu, what do you think? Did you have any surprises about that City 2 lineup or City 2 roster reveal today? Not the kit. Don't get into the kit yet, but the roster itself.
No, I mean, I think we talked a little bit in our private chat about homegrown players not being on the roster, and I think that caught the eye of a few people. I think, I mean, the roster's big news, of course, but yeah, the kit reveal is the other one. I mean, when you get to goalkeepers, I think that's a surprise. We weren't sure exactly where Colin Welsh would fit in. Nick Bishop, he's a academy guy who's graduated up to City 2 now.
He's going on year 3 of City 2? Or year 2?
Yeah,
I thought it was year 3.
Year 3 was Christian was the main keeper last year, and he was also the third keeper. Well, Eric Walker was 2022.
Oh yeah, that's right. Walker was 22, but I mean 23. I thought Bishop actually.
Oh yeah, you might be right. I am off a year in my brain.
This is the 4th year of existence for City 2.
Yeah, that's wild.
But no, I agree with you on the homegrowns. Like that's the thing for me to keep in mind is the City 2 and City 2 has their first match as well this weekend, Sunday at 7:30 Central at North Texas. And I don't know if it's the first time ever. It's definitely the first time the season's kicked off where they play at the same time as City. So kind of unfortunate, but I mean, you flip right over to City 2 after the City match ends if you want to catch most of the game. The roster, I use air quotes when I say the City 2 roster reveal, because you're going to have Christian Oliveras come play down at keeper. You're going to have Ben Lunt at times. The homegrowns are going to see minutes. Makai Joyner and Tyson Pierce are the season long. They're going to be with City 2 for like the whole season because they're off roster homegrowns. Caden Glover and Miguel Perez, also homegrowns, are going to see time with City 2. And then any other City player that needs minutes. Like we already saw that Tomas Ostrak and Joey Zielinski played down with City 2 last weekend in a friendly, so that they weren't available for the matchday roster against San Diego. So you're seeing that already, and it's only going to continue for the depth that City has. You're going to see more players. So I look at this roster and I don't quite know what to make of it, other than I see exciting names like Emiliano Chavez at defender. I think we knew about just about most of these names, if not all these names. Yaziel Orozco was the one that was recently signed to City 2. Gabriel McKenna is the captain again. That's the back line. We've got a host of midfielders. Seth Antwi, Ryan Betcher, Cam Silly, John DiMaria, Ryan Dugan, Larson Hackworth is back. Mateo Kidd is back. Juan Kuzain is back. Forwards, Dita Armstrong, Lorenzo Cornelius, another U.S. national team player with experience. Lucas Dimitra, Emil Yaskalenin, Brendan McSorley. Stu, do you think, I think the question when I look at this roster isn't necessarily the players, because we talked about all that are missing that are going to play from City. Do you think they follow the Olaf Melberg 3-4-1-2 formation?
Well, I'm always in favor of having your reserve team and try to have your academy follow the same philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say I would like to see that. Looking at the personnel on here, I'm not entirely sure how that fits necessarily. I feel like a guy like Juan Kuzain, we've seen back in his Sporting KC Swope Park Rangers days. He played a little bit of wing back for maybe a match or two, left wing back, but that was years ago, so who knows here. It's interesting. Lucas Dimitra, who originally came in, I think, as a left winger, is now being put up top along with Lorenzo Cornelius. So, yeah, I think the only out and out strikers we have are Yaskalenin and McSorley. Dita's played out wide. Lorenzo and Lucas, like I said. Also, today was Mateo Kidd's birthday, I believe. So happy birthday to Mateo Kidd. He's a St. Louis guy. Came through the Scott Gallagher and St. Louis FC system before going to SLU.
The other thing about this that I wanted to say real quick is because Tom Franklin, our soccer zombie friend in the chat, notes that Nick Bishop is going to the University of Pittsburgh in the summer. So there is this other story for City 2 players that some of them are on amateur contracts, specifically so they could continue their careers in college. So this roster that we have right now isn't going to be the finalized roster come August, for instance. There's going to be some players that go off to college. And that's kind of how City 2 has operated these past few years. So another reason why I'm not reading too deep into like this entire roster, City 2 is just always in flux. And that's by nature of where the team is in the structure of the organization and the amateur nature of some of these contracts. So
Yeah, and a guy like Caden Glover, who's not on here, who we expect to see playing with City 2 a lot this year, he also turns 18 in 2 days. So he may have an opportunity to move abroad this year.
I was going to say, are you speculating on a Bundesliga sale because you have to be 18 to go play over there?
It would not surprise me. Aaron Hurd moved over to Leverkusen earlier this year.
Yep.
It wouldn't, or late last year, it wouldn't shock me if Caden were to make a jump as well. I'm not saying he will or I've necessarily heard anything about that, but you have to be 18 and he's almost 18. So typically rumors would have come out by now, so that maybe won't be likely, but just something to keep an eye on.
Nothing like breaking unfounded rumors and
Oh
discussing them.
man, I love unfounded rumors. that's why Twitter exploded in popularity with the sports scene, and now Blue Sky is a lot of fun.
You got to make Blue Sky the unfounded rumor home.
Oh yeah.
What about the kit? What'd you think of this kit tease / reveal? The blue with the red. These are actual stripes, red stripes.
Yeah, they are not the, I don't know if you call them pseudo stripes of the City senior
Pseudo
kit.
Stripes. You don't see
Faded
the stripes
accent.
on this thing right now?
Yeah, they're coming across really clear. Along with that amazing collar. You know, the collar actually has grown on me substantially. So keep it popped, and we'll see if we, if you pop it and we score against LA Galaxy and beat them, you can never unpop it. You're just gonna have to walk around City Park or Energizer Park all year with that all popped.
You know, I'd be okay with that. I just can't unbutton this. And our buddy Aaron was making fun of me a little bit at the San Diego trip because I saw him at the airport and he had his unbuttoned like this. And some people look good with their collars unbuttoned. I do not. In this kit, normally I don't button my collar on a polo shirt up to the top, but this one with the one button, I don't know if I don't have the neckline for it or what, but it is just not a good look to see me not button this. But I'll take the pop collar. And if we score, I don't know, if we win and we score like 3 goals against the Galaxy, I'll wear this pop collar to the Seattle game.
Perfect. Just like the mustache was around for a while, and hopefully that'll make a comeback this year.
The mustache worked against the Chicago Fire last year, and then boy, did it peter out quickly.
Oh, well, keep that in mind for August. Gonna have to grow it out for the 16th.
That's fair.
But yeah, no, it's great that City 2 has their own kits. It's been a while in the making. They've been using the gray kits. So it's amazing to have. It doesn't look entirely like River Blue, but it has to be a River Blue.
Yeah, I suppose. Now, Stu, let's talk about what happened Thursday night tonight when we had this first scene and the conversation over on Blue Sky about, can we buy these kits?
So our good friend Jerry Hayes said on Blue Sky that she was told by staff at City Pavilion that they are not selling City 2 kits. There were some responses. They quote tweeted, and to give some background, there was the talk back when MLS2 teams were in USL Championship that MLS2 teams could not sell their kits for whatever reason. And we thought that was a USL rule. Miguel Batista said that on Blue Sky that he heard from MLS Comms or MLS Next Pro Comms that MLS2 teams are not allowed to sell their merch. So,
yep.
But Dallas is selling their MLS Next team's kit, North Texas Soccer Club. So, I don't know. Just confusing.
And Michael Batista from Hudson. He's from Hudson River Blue. Which is one of the better former SB Nation blogs. Told by comms that Next Pro Reserve teams, it not including Huntsville, so like the actual reserve teams, not those teams that are like affiliated kind of a thing, aren't allowed to sell kits. The fact that the North Texas kit is for sale, the fact that Red Bull 2 had sold theirs in USL. I don't know what to make of like the reason behind it, and I think that's part of this. My speculation is just that MLS doesn't want to cannibalize their jersey sales by people buying the 2-team jerseys and then not buying the first team, whether it's because of affordability or the jersey sale numbers being lower as a result. I don't know the underlying reason, but I think it's kind of a bummer that these jerseys are specifically a different flare. Like they're primarily blue, obviously. And there's a lot of people who go to City 2 games and a lot of people who only go to City 2 games. So the affordability, the family factor of this team really does mean that, yeah, everybody's who goes to City 2 is a City fan, I think, but you're going to have a lot of people who probably want to buy a City 2 kit just because they're going to all of those games. They're invested in the players at that team that they may not see ever on the first team. And so it is something different. And I think that was assumed that you would hope that with these new jerseys for the first time, other than white and gray, you'd have a chance to buy them, even if they were, for 50, 60 bucks, whatever they end up being. I think it's a bummer, to say the least, that MLS isn't letting the 2 teams sell these.
Yeah, I if I was St. Louis front office, which it's a good thing I'm not, the fan base, we're clearly a bunch of sickos who will buy whatever merch you put out. So if you put City 2 merch out there, there are people who are going to buy probably 2 a person. And you're going to have kids who go to City 2 games, like you said, and their favorite player is, I don't know, Jas Glennon or Dimitra or Mateo Kidd or whatever. Yeah. And the ability to buy that, get it signed. I mean, there's a market out there. I don't think that would necessarily stop too many people from buying City merch for the senior club.
No, it's to me, it's more like all those jerseys that the supporter groups and everybody else puts out.
Yeah.
It's more like that as opposed to cannibalizing the first team jerseys, because there's something unique about having the jersey that they wear on the field for the first team that is just conceptually different to me in my brain. So I don't think that the City 2 kits would be cannibalizing it in that way, other than MLS just not wanting to risk the sales of their jerseys somehow. I think of it more like those other kinds of jerseys where you're showing support for just a component of the organization, the fan base, those kinds of things. But that's just me.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are people out there who want, Lorenzo Cornelius City 2 kit for when he makes it big and one day he wins MLS Golden Boot. So you can wear that around, walk around, like the person who has the Josh Sargent S2FC PDL jersey out there. So, it's
the true sicko who's going to have the last laugh.
There. So you can have that street cred in 5 years.
Exactly. All right, Stu, I think we've covered City 2. Just one last thing on City 2. They do play their first game this Sunday, 7:30 Central. So if you're a split screen fan while you're watching the Galaxy Sunday night soccer game, put the City 2 game on Apple TV as well. Otherwise, flip over to it after the game ends, and we'll see what City 2 has to start off with, because that's quite the tasty matchup between North Texas, 2 powerhouses from last year, duking it out to open the season. All right, Stu, anything else before we call it a night?
Nope, just go City and let's bring back 3 points.
That's right. Thanks for joining us here on Flyover Footy. For Phil Grooms, Stu Holtgren, I'm Matt Baker. Appreciate you joining us, and we will talk to you later. Go City.